You're listening to the Armchair GM Sports Network.
This is Rod Mahood, your in-game voice of the Niagara IceDogs, and you're listening to the Dog Pound Podcast on the Armchair GM Sports Network, your podcast source for all game analysis, team interviews, and up-to-date news regarding the Niagara IceDogs.
Perlini! Overtime! IceDogs win!
Hosing! Score!
To Akil Thomas. Thomas has the angle coming in. He scores!
Verhaeghe does it again! 52.1 seconds to go. Do you love it, Niagara?
Welcome in, ladies and gentlemen, to another installment of the Dog Pound Podcast, the official podcast of your Niagara IceDogs. This is our end-of-season episode for you guys. We finally reached the end of the Ontario Hockey League season for the Niagara IceDogs, and what a season it was. We're going to talk about that on today's episode, guys. Make sure you're following the podcast on Twitter at Dog Pound Podcast, as well on Facebook and Instagram by searching the Armchair GM Sports Network. You can also check us out on our website, armchairgmsports.com, and on whatever audio platform you like to listen to us on demand. Also, give us some love on the video version of the podcast on YouTube. Hit the like, hit subscribe, smash that bell for all updates on video versions of our podcast that get released here on YouTube. And you see our beautiful faces here on the video version. As always, I'm your host of the Dog Pound Podcast. My name is Brandon Caputo. You can follow me on Twitter at bcaputo_AGM, and you can follow my co-host Kyle right underneath me there at justkyle51. Kyle, at the time of recording this episode, again, we're going to get into a lot today, including the Twitter polls from you fans out there, thoughts on the IceDogs players individually. We've got exit interviews with players and the head coach Ryan Kuwabara. We've also got Ted Lehman's chat with the owner and GM Darren DeDobbelaer, kind of recapping the season. But to start off the episode, just happened the OHL priority selection lottery, Kyle, and for the second year in a row, the IceDogs come out on the short end of the stick.
Yeah. Is that 3 years in a row or is that 2 years in a row?
2.
Because wasn't the Pano Fimis draft too? We didn't finish last?
No, North Bay was last.
Okay, so.
And they got Ty Nelson, and now look at them.
That's right. Last year we ended up losing the lottery and our pick didn't even show up. But we got the 5th overall pick this year. But in saying that, again, the OHL raises the draft lottery percentages this year, and we had a 40% chance at winning the lottery, and we still lost. Kind of seems formulaic and just goes head with what's happened this year with the IceDogs. And it's sad. It's honestly, it's frustrating. I really wanted that 1st overall pick, and of course, it's just like, it's one of those things where it's like, yeah, of course we win the lottery because of the year we just had. Not only that, they announced that Saginaw won the Memorial Cup today, won the bid for that, and literally the same day as the draft lottery.
Two L's in one day, and they're not the season's over with. And again, the IceDogs just unfortunately again, just one of those pile-on years. But before we get going, Kyle, with the negative or kind of moving on from that, I will say one positive. At least we got a normal OHL season in after what we've dealt with in society the last 2 years. Before this season, we had obviously the COVID season, and then before that, didn't even have a season at all. So I think it's just, finally getting back to some normalcy, and the fact that we got a whole 68-game season in for all 20 teams. Good on the OHL for getting that done, and it was nice to just have a normal IceDog season. Again, last year, with fans not being able to attend games for vast majority of that season, COVID shutdowns, things like that. So, how did you? I don't know about you, Kyle, but I just feel like I'm happy that we got a normal OHL season back after what we've dealt with over the last couple of years.
Yeah, it doesn't. Honestly, it feels good to, be back to normal because we went through some weird times. Even like last season, those were some odd times. Even at the Meridian Center, in the year before that, not even having an OHL season at all, tough to cover a team when there's no hockey at all. But it was great to have a full season. Obviously, what happened with the Ice Dogs this season is not ideal and not what everyone wanted to see, but hopefully things will change next year once we go through this offseason. And now we have to build upon this draft coming up. So we have 2 top 5 picks. Number 2 now we know for sure, and number 5 for sure. So now until then, the Ice Dogs will sit with their staff, watch the OHL Cup that's happening right now in junior, and keep an eye on players that are performing and playing for those spots right now. Because I don't think everyone's going to have their own opinion. I don't think there is a surefire number 1 overall pick this year. As some boards will have Dylan Rubrick's brother, Ryan Rubrick, at number 1. Who knows? Maybe even Erie has someone else in mind at number 1. But there is a crop of really good talent in that top 5, and we have 2 picks in that top 5. So we can get 2 of those players into the system and to change and turn things around here in Niagara to become that playoff team that everyone obviously loves and wants to see again with this organization.
And again, the commitment issue. I think Darren and Wes are doing their due diligence with this crop of draft picks. Last year, they kind of came in a transitional period, so you know that they're doing their due diligence this time around. And getting a proper recruitment, plan ahead of them with the scouting staff as well on which players, will want to be Niagara Ice Dogs moving forward and the ones that will want to join the organization. So I think from that standpoint, you have to think like maybe the Ice Dogs lucked out here. Maybe the guy who goes first, wouldn't have reported after all or some sort of scenario like that. So I just look at it like they're going to have 2 top 5 picks and bringing 2 solid players into the organization, like you mentioned. And it's going to be a very competitive training camp next year when we get to the fall. And I'm just looking forward to what the offseason brings for the Ice Dogs because it's obviously a big one. And we have a quote here from Darren DeDobbelaer that will be in the interview that we play later, but because it was from the Memorial Cup, we posted it today. We will be back in 3 years bidding again. We're not stopping until we host the Memorial Cup here in Niagara. So that goes to show that Darren, as the owner and GM of the team, is committed to bringing that tournament here to Niagara, whatever he can to bring that here. I think they learned a lot through the experience of bidding through it this year. And it'll help them the next time they go and bid for it, and hopefully the team will be much better than it is right now at that point. And they've got the backing from the city and the region to want to have this here, and I think that that's important. And hopefully, when it does come back to the OHL, congratulations to Saginaw, they can have it in 2024. But when it comes back in 2027, maybe the Ice Dogs will have the upper hand at that point.
Yeah, and it's still, yes, regardless, we're not going to have that, that safety net, I guess you can say, of hosting Memorial Cup next year because the host team automatically gets into the tournament. We can use that we can take that into an account where, maybe we don't want to go in with the team that we have now because if we want to host a Memorial Cup tournament, we want to be able to compete enough to be in that Memorial Cup tournament. You know what I mean? Like, we don't want to go in and get, quote unquote, pumped by every team in the Memorial Cup tournament because that's just not fun for the players and, the fans of Niagara that want to see them compete. So hopefully by then we'll have a more of a competing team and it'll mean more if we do secure in 2027 when we do go for another bid. But tracking back a little bit to this coming draft, not only do we have 2 first round picks and two picks in the top 5. Like you mentioned, it's going to be a competitive draft. We have a plethora of other picks in the second and third rounds, which those players are going to be competing as well in training camp. You think about players that have come out of the second and third round Niagara's drafted before. Obviously the one that comes to mind is Kevin He, who has shown this year that probably should have been a first round pick. and will be coming in this year, or will be going into next year, hopefully having a better year than not saying he had a better year than this year. He had a really good rookie campaign, but he's going to be improving on that. But the second and third round picks that the IceDogs are going to be taking this year, going into camp next year, it's going to be very, very, I think it's going to be a very highly competitive camp for the Niagara IceDogs. So a lot of exciting things to look at with the IceDogs, obviously this off season, with the draft coming up. It is what it is with the Memorial Cup. Got to move on from that now. It's a shame, but again, hopefully by 2027, we'll have a better outlook on the team, and we'll have a sense of being more competitive when we do bid again. And, again, it meaning more. I think me, at least, looking at it as from a fan's perspective, I'd want to know my team would compete in the Memorial Cup rather than know that might get blown out by all three other teams.
Yeah, and again, they're going to have the first pick in the other rounds, so that's something to use as a positive as well. But you're right, like the team just has to be more competitive, and we want to see this team, do well. Again, we understand what the fan base, with the frustrations were. We don't enjoy going and watching bad hockey either, but we've seen glimpses of what this team is going to be, in the future, and they were a rebuilding team in the second half, and yeah, it was not the record that they wanted to have. And Darren DeDobbelaer, talks about that in the interview that we're going to play for you very shortly. And, he's very honest about things, and he knows that he's got a lot of work to do with this team. And let's give them a full off season to see what they can do and the team that they can put on the ice next season. And hopefully the IceDog fans, and I know that they will still be around to support this team and support these kids as they look to take the next step here in the OHL, because it's not easy to go through a season like they just did. And and it was just mentally draining for everybody involved. So
and even talking to management behind the scenes, like they know the hard work ahead, it needs to be done, and they know what they're doing. It's not like they're just flying by the seat of their pants, as a lot of fans might think they are and might not know what they're doing. They know what needs to be done, and they know that they've kind of assured us that things will change. So I have faith in what they do here. And you know what? Even if it could mean, I know a lot of fans are screaming for it, it could mean bringing in another person into that GM spot to kind of help them out. Like, Darren's not going anywhere. Even if they hired a GM, Darren's still going to have a say in this team. He still owns the team. Yeah. But even if it means bringing in someone else to help them out and to put into that GM role, we could see it this offseason. You never know. So,
but who knows, right? Like
exactly.
That's a wait and see type scenario. And if they feel like they need the help, they'll get it.
Yeah.
So with that said, guys, let's jump into that interview, because it's got quite the information from the owner and general manager Darren DeDobbelaer in his chat on the final weekend of the season with the radio voice of the IceDogs, Ted Lehman, on Country 89.1. All of the games are live on there, and they just signed their new extension to be to continue on with Country 89 as the radio broadcast for the Niagara IceDogs for multi-years. So congratulations to Ted and everybody at Country 89 for that agreement. And as far as the interview with Darren goes, we'll listen to it here, and we'll come back and discuss it before we get to the next portion of today's segment. So here is the owner and general manager of the Niagara IceDogs, Darren DeDobbelaer, talking about the 2023 IceDogs season.
What is on DeDobbelaer's radar?
Only one way to end the season. We're going to check in with the owner and general manager of your IceDogs, Darren DeDobbelaer. Darren, you're always great with your time. Thanks for doing this.
Ted, thank you very much. I really appreciate all the coverage you've given us this year, and you've been a fine gentleman to me. Thank you.
So I want to start talking about the fans, because as this season comes to an end, you must be in awe of the fan base here in the St. Catharines, Niagara area when you consider your team has outdrawn the defending OHL champions with half the population. The fans of the IceDogs are special.
It's just been an amazing group of people. We obviously had the season we hadn't planned for this year, and they just stuck by us through and through. I met a lot of good people in my short time here, 8 months. Fantastic people. I could just name drop forever. The old mayor, the previous mayor, Walter, the new mayor, Matt, Doug Hamilton, Megan. I had the privilege of meeting your beautiful daughter yesterday. I've met so many people that I wouldn't have met otherwise, so I'm very grateful of that.
Now, as we look at the end of this season, get some things out of the way right away. First of all, coaching staff. Is that set in stone for next year?
Yeah, you know what? It's hard to jump in, mold the guys, build the culture. So these guys are going to be great moving forward. We've got a lot of plans in place how we're going to instill more discipline, more culture moving forward. And we're going to be fine.
Now, when you look at what's gone on this year, and so much has happened, was it? I asked you this question before. Was it fun this year for Darren DeDobbelaer?
You know what? I loved it. It's the highs are very high, the lows are very low. We wanted to win more. We brought in, players that we thought we could do. We had no overagers to keep. We had great players. There were great players. We brought in great players, and they're all great players, but they just didn't mesh for some reason. So I loved it. It was great. Michelle loved it. We really enjoy being here. We want to win more next year. And these fans, you asked me a little earlier on it, these fans deserve more than what we gave them this year.
Darren DeDobbelaer is the GM and the owner of the IceDogs. As you talk about that and you look at this, I don't know that you let yourself off the hook enough in terms of what's going on. You inherited a tough situation. It was a 2020 draft that didn't work out for this team in any way, shape, and form, and you had to deal with that. And there was so many other things and moves. Your hand was forced. When you look back at it, there was choices you might have made differently if you had a choice.
You know what? You can't live your life backwards. They had a good product last year. Give me Gushkin and his 45 goals back this year, and maybe we're in a different position. The sale happened quickly for them as well as me. So, we can't dwell on the past. It is what it is. We're going to move forward. And like I say, these fans, this region, this facility, yourself, Ted, we all deserve better than 12 wins. So we built ourselves good. We realized at the deadline it just wasn't going to happen this year. So we brought in some great assets. We only lose our 3 OADs. So we're excited about the future.
You got to be excited about the draft coming up because it could be number 1 and number 5, number 2 and number 5, on and on and on and on and on. It's got to be exciting. They just announced Dave Brown as the head of the U17 program. You're probably going to have 2 players off the IceDogs roster there next year.
You know what? The top 5, there's probably 8 players in this draft that's going to make an impact right now. So Wes and I met with the agents and the players, and everybody is on board, and we're all good. So we don't have a fear of players not reporting this year. Again, not to dwell on the past, but it was July before the ownership took over. We never got a chance to get out in front of anybody last year. Kevin He was obviously the steal of the draft, so he's got 21. I believe, correct me if I'm wrong, Ted, I believe he's tied for the record right now, is he not?
Tied for the record of a 16-year-old. We want to see him get 2 today because that'll tie him for the rookie record. A 17-year-old did it as a rookie player. He only played a handful of games. It was Chris D'Souza way back in the beginning of the IceDogs time. How excited are you about the draft? And again, I got a chance to talk to Adam Henrik. If there's one person on the planet more exciting to talk to than Darren DeDobbelaer, it's Adam Henrik. This guy's passion just oozes out of every pore.
You know what? He's worked really hard. All the scouts have worked really hard, and Wes has watched his video all night long. We got a good grasp on this, and again, with 2 in the top 5, and probably number 28 or 29 pick overall, we're going to have 3 players in the top 30. So they're all going to be IceDogs next year, and it's going to change the look of our team immensely. I mean, I'm not getting too excited about who we're picking right now until Wednesday, the lottery draft, but Wes and I will be in their kitchen come Thursday morning and making sure that they're Ice Dogs. And like I say, that there's 8 players that are going to be impactful players. So we're very excited.
1 week ago, we had, I think, people drooling all over this building. You had the Memorial Cup committee. You had the CHL people, the OHL people in the building. You have to feel, and I'm going to get to another question in a second, but when you look at, this Taj Mahal, you got to love where your team gets to play.
You know what? This place is unbelievable, unbelievable. Everybody that walks in, the first time I saw it, I always wanted to buy an OHL team, and then when I walked in, when Bill and Denise brought me into this rink, I just said, "Sold, like done. This is a no-brainer. This is the most amazing facility, close to the natural wonder of the world." If we don't get this Memorial Cup, we'll be back in 3 years. I guarantee you, we will be back in 3 years. We're not stopping till we get this.
You did the impossible. You got unanimity from City Council. You can talk about Walter Senzik and Matt Sisko, but they'd probably be laughing as I say this because everybody not only supported it, but they supported you personally. That had to make you, feel like you were almost a lifelong resident.
And you know what? Again, that's I've been a good judge of character all my life. These guys aren't faking it. These guys aren't good because I own the team. They're just good people. We had the mayor of Niagara Falls in the suite the other day and a couple weeks ago, I guess, and they're just good people. And Doug Hamilton's worked hard for this, and Brian York. I could name drop forever. The whole council. They're just this is a good region. They're good people, and they're just not nice to me. Jeff Dixon, who runs this place, they're not just nice to me because I own the team. They're just good people.
Let's get some stuff off the table. As far as the Memorial Cup is concerned, is there any date when they're going to make that decision?
Well, we were led to believe that they were going to make it 2 days ago, Friday, and we haven't heard anything. So I don't know if that's good news or bad news, but I've been optimistic from the start. We knew that our team strength was going to hurt us, but again, we're in games. We're competitive. So, and with 2 picks in the top 5 and a top 2 or 3 import draft pick, this team's going to totally change next year. So I'm very optimistic, and again, I guarantee you, we're not quitting until we get it.
Until Daniil Gushkin, this team had almost no success in the import draft, moderate success. I know talking to Adam Henrik, talking to Evan McGrath, they've had some experience, international hockey. Are you really going to be diving into that part of the draft as well?
Yeah, we are. We have a guy in mind right now, a defenseman that we have in mind right now. We're looking for a second one or maybe keep the Hall boy. We haven't decided yet, but again, being in the top of that draft, we're gonna have a real good player, that's for sure.
You and I haven't had the time to get to know each other personally because we're both running in different directions. I've enjoyed the time we spent together, but that being said, you talk about your team. Was it a revelation, a surprise to you how much the team means to the community? How many times your team is supporting some charitable function, some local group? Again, I always tell people it's not just a hockey game. It's more than that.
You know what? It's part of being embedded in the community and giving back. And, people will give to you if you give back. And last week we signed the major sponsorship for the Crime Stoppers golf tournament. So it's fun. We enjoy it, and it's part of business, and we're helping each other grow here.
Well, last thing, Darren DeDobbelaer, GM, owner of the Ice Dogs, we can make it official that we've come to an agreement on an extension. So Country 89 and Giant FM are going to be back broadcasting the games for the next few years. I thank you for that confidence, and I just look forward to just so much happening in the future for your team.
You know what? You guys have been outstanding. The coverage you give us, you're always positive. It's been a little difficult to be positive this year, but you've continued to be positive, and that's what we like. It's at the end of the day, it's got to be fun, and it is a business, and we are building these kids for the NHL, but it has to be fun and enjoyable, and we can't hear the negative, and you guys have done a great job always promoting us, and Michelle and I really appreciate it.
Well, our thanks back to Michelle, and I'll leave it on this note. I met Kevin He's dad in the parking lot, and I had to stop and tell Mr. He, as great as a hockey player he is, he's even a better human being, and I know that's important to you as well.
You know what? That's really important, and last night we had appreciation for the billets, and his billet dad came up to me last night and said, I have one request. I want to keep Kevin next year. So, that's great. I mean, the billets they're happy. They're good kids. They're, even the players we traded, they're all good boys, but, sometimes they just don't mesh and stuff like that. And at the end of the day, they're all, adults that we have to mold into better adults. So, we're happy, and this is good, and they're all good kids.
IceDogs owner and GM Darren DeDobbelaer, I know I get some downtime. I know you don't. Good luck, and thanks for everything. And thank you to Michelle for sharing you with our hockey team.
It's bittersweet. I'm really looking forward to next season, but I don't want this season to end. I wish we had another 10 games.
Okay, so thank you once again to Ted Lehman from Country 89.1 for the interview, providing us with the interview that he did on Sunday with Darren DeDobbelaer. So again, the Memorial Cup stuff, again, this was recorded a few days back. So obviously we got the news with that today. But with that said, Kyle, there was a lot to take from the interview with Darren. Can I ask you what your biggest takeaways were?
Yeah, I mean, obviously right off the bat, him talking about improving the culture, right? And that's like one of the main focuses of the team. Obviously, we know, and we know what happened with the transition to the team and them wanting to kind of improve from where the IceDogs came from and improve the culture around the team. Also mentioning that, they have a lot of faith in their coaching staff, the current coaching staff in place. So they're not in the market of changing anyone, and they firmly believe in what this coaching staff is providing these players and the system that they've implemented. So I'm glad to see that, because I think they're a great coaching staff. Getting to know them, a few of them since they've gotten here, and a lot of the other staff throughout the year, they are a great group of people. And I think that the system that they're implemented, specifically Coach K's system since getting here, I think is going to be a good one for this team going down forward. Him mentioning, which is a big thing, and I think a lot of angry fans, I'll say, are going to love this, that he believes that the fans deserved more than what we got this year. So at least he's acknowledging the fact that, this team with only the 12 wins, the fans didn't deserve any of that and deserved a lot better. So him acknowledging that is huge and saying that. So I appreciate Darren for bringing that up too in the interview. It's also interesting that they've talked with the staff and they have their eye on players, like not only for the OHL priority selection, which Darren was confident enough to say that there's 8 players that they've seen through scouting that are impact worthy players right now. So him saying that, and we have 2 picks, that's a good look. If everything falls into perspective and everything falls right and the balls are all aligned, we could have 2 high impact players coming into what we already have as a team right now with a lot of impact players, and which builds a great hockey club. Not only that, even the import draft, him mentioning that they have an eye on a defenseman. So they already have someone, IceDogs, their luck has been what it's been the last couple of years and so on with the import draft. Not a lot of good luck. So hopefully that if they have their eye on this D-man and they're able to take him in the import draft, that'll be huge for the IceDogs. But also the big thing, I think, if we're talking about the draft, Brandon, him mentioning that they've already met with the players and agents of players that they're looking at taking and them being committed is a huge thing, I think, out of this entire interview, because we know what happened last year. Obviously, it really wasn't fair for the IceDogs because they came in at a time where they didn't have enough time to meet with, I guess you can say, Sam Dickinson and
the representation.
And get that representation and get kind of like an outlook on where he wanted to go and, meet with him a couple of times, right? now they've had the time to do that. Now he even saying that Thursday, which is the time this podcast will be out, they're already going to be in the kitchens of the players that they looking at drafting again and getting the commitment. So I think that was one of the biggest things out of this entire interview. And obviously at the end, which is really cool, signing with Crime Stoppers for a charity golf tournament. You being a big golf guy, that's a really cool thing to see as well.
Yeah, and he says it has to be fun. Having great kids is very important to him, and making sure that the culture is positive, because we've seen in the last couple of years hasn't been maybe the greatest as far as that goes, but. Yeah, everything you mentioned was literally every single point that I had to mention. The 12 wins, the 8 players making an immediate impact, the no fear of players committing, and will be in their kitchen. I even wrote down Thursday morning with the players that they're going to want now with the 2nd and 5th overall pick, and the import draft as well. Obviously, they had luck with Gushin and Denicio, but outside of that, they really have not had much success with the import draft. So hopefully, like Ted mentioned, in the interview there, they've got some international feel for what is available over there for them to pick from if they choose to use that import pick. But yeah, just good stuff from Darren DeDobbelaer, and I know, the fan base is frustrated, and hopefully, portions of that gave you a little bit more, I guess, clarity on what to expect from this management group moving forward. And again, they still have to go out and do a good job. We're not, going to sit here and say, they can go through another season like we just did. Absolutely not. Having another 12-win season next season will not be acceptable by anybody. Like you mentioned, you said that the fans deserve and the community deserves so much better than what the results of this year.
Yeah. And I agree with that too, because man, we honestly are, and we gloat about. They didn't even mention it in the interview, which is true. Like, we have one of the best facilities in the OHL, and seriously, it's a crime that we weren't chosen. But anyways, it is what that is. We also have the best fan base, I think, in the OHL. We have the most loyal fan base in the OHL. We are in dead last with 12 wins. In the last, was it 4 or 3 home games? We almost had 5,000 fans in those seats.
In games that meant nothing. And as Ted mentioned, outdrew the defending OHL champions up the road in Hamilton.
Yeah. So this shows you how loyal this fan base is. And when he mentions something like this fan base deserves more. And he's right. This fan base, us included, we're members of the media, but we're also fans at heart at the same time. Fans deserved more than a 12-win season this year. And it is what it is. Him mentioning that the players that they went and traded for, it was one of those things where it didn't work. They didn't mesh. It is what that was. And they, at the deadline, they found out the competitiveness that they had wasn't enough to compete for a playoff spot. So they shipped out people that they needed to ship out and brought in players for the future. So, and look at those players that they brought in for the future. I'm very excited for the future with the players they brought in. A steal like Zach Laval we got from Mississauga. Alex Assadourian looks like his ceiling hasn't even been broken yet. Sky's the limit with this kid. And we've seen a lot of good spurts out of him, especially since when he first got here. So you have those two bright outlooks ahead. And even acquiring, he was a little bit late in his development this year, but you saw some good spurts out of Vladimir William Hall, who was we picked him up off free, I believe it was waivers.
Yep.
And he was an import pick for Mississauga. So he was a great kid, by the way, behind the scenes. Halsey is one of my favorite kids on the roster. He's hilarious to talk to.
Other than you just botching his first name, but that's okay.
Yeah, I know. Always botch his first name, but good kid. But anyways, we've seen some spurts out of him where he's shown improvement. So
yep.
I'm excited for the future of this team, but great interview from Darren DeDobbelaer. Again, I think we got a lot of reassurance here that they've done their due diligence and have done their work scouting for this coming draft. So it was really good to hear that.
Yep, and we'll wait and see what comes from the draft. Right now, I guess a couple weeks away. Can't believe it's even coming up that quick, but with it being in the middle of the OHL playoffs, again, I can rant about that for
like that is literally the weirdest thing I've ever seen is like a draft happening in the middle of the playoffs. It's not that the GMs of the teams that are competing have enough on their plate. They also got to worry about drafting at the same time.
Yeah. Good luck to Marty, coach, GM, and you got to draft the team at the same time while Barry's probably in a deep playoff run. So Good segue, Kyle, because we're going to get to awards with our polls right after the break.
Ooh.
So end of season fan
right.
voting with the polls that we posted today. And we'll get into that in segment 2. So stay right here. Be right back on the Dog Pound Podcast, the official podcast of your Niagara Ice Dogs.
Experience a new way to play daily fantasy sports and esports on Thrive Fantasy. Thrive's game concept revolves around player props, which are simple over-unders on player stats. There are contests for traditional sports including the NFL, NBA, MLB, PGA, and cricket, as well as esports titles including CSGO, Dota 2, League of Legends, and more coming soon. Here's how to play. Choose your lineup of over-unders for top-tier athletes that have the biggest impact on the game. Each prop has a fantasy point total based on how likely it is to hit. The more points a selection is worth, the riskier it is. Rack up the most points and win a share of the prize pool. Thrive is awarded over $2 million in cash, so come and prop up today.
Hey, this is Landon Cato.
Hey, it's Juan Copeland.
This is Kevin Heath.
This is Zach Lavoie.
It's Owen Floyd.
You're listening to the Dog Pound Podcast,
the official podcast
of the Niagara Ice Dogs.
Welcome back to segment 2 of today's Dog Pound Podcast. Brandon Caputo and Kyle Lake back with you here for the end of season episode here on the Dog Pound Podcast. Guys, if you're enjoying the video version, hit that like, hit subscribe, smash that bell for all updates on video versions of our podcast to get released here on the network as well. We're available on demand on your favorite listening platform. So in second segment of today's show, Kyle, we got the Twitter polls up for who the fans thought that were deserving of a couple of distinctions. So we've got 5 polls, and if you're waiting for the exit interviews, that's going to come at the end of the show today. So stay tuned. We've got exit interviews with the players from this past week. So let's quickly go over the polls, Kyle, here. And let me pull up first. What do you want to start with out of the 5?
Let's go with the first one and work your way down.
Okay, so we'll start off with, well, I don't know what's first on my list here. I think it was was it most improved?
Yes, I see most improved.
Most improved Ice Dogs player of the season. Declan Waddick, Daniel Michaud, and Andrew Vermeulen were the 3 choices for that. And with a whopping 64.6% of the vote, Declan Waddick takes home this distinction, Kyle.
Ooh, I mean, you have to give it to him. He's had one hell of an improvement from last year. Yeah, he showed, I guess you say, spurts of great play last year, but almost getting the 50-point mark this year. Had 28 goals. That was second on the team in goals this year. Declan had a very, very excellent year this year. I saw a lot of improvement in his game, specifically his 200-foot game, especially compared to last year. So Declan, I think, most deserving of this award. You know, it's a shame because I would have said Wysick any other day. Unfortunately, he's had a lot of injury trouble, and it's a shame, dude. Good kid, has a good head on his shoulders, but unfortunately, he's run into a lot of injury problems. But Declan Waddick, I think, definitely deserved this award.
Yeah, going into the training camp, I think we all saw the improvement that Andrew Wysick was going to have this year, and then went through some unfortunate injuries and kind of really derailed his season. So hopefully, Wysick can play a full season next year, and he's looking forward to that. We talked to him off the ice, and he's looking forward to showing the improvements that he made in last offseason to get ready for this season. So we'll hope for the best for him and play a full 68 game season next year, because I think he would have given Declan Waddick a lot of run for his money here if he would have played the whole season. But yeah, Declan Waddick going from 17 points to 28 goals, second in goals, right behind Zachary Lavoie, and he's one of our exit interviews, so we'll talk to him about that a little later on. But Declan Waddick, most improved Ice Dog this season. The next one, I believe, is the newcomer poll.
Yes.
Okay. Ice Dog's best newcomer this season. 4 nominees: Owen Flores, Zachary Lavoie, Alex Assadourian, and Bronson Ride. And as far as newcomer goes, that means player that was not on the team last year that was acquired this season. So, again, I thought this poll, I mean, it was pretty close when you look at it because all 4 nominees had at least 20% of the vote. So you can look at it that way, that all 4 of these players made an impact coming over to the Ice Dogs. Owen Flores with 24.2%, Zach Lavoie with 21%, Alex Assadourian with 22.6%, and Bronson Ride, the big-bodied defenseman from the Windsor Spitfires, takes home this distinction with 32.3%. I know he's got a lot of family that follow the show, so thank you very much to the Ride family, and maybe they had a little bit of an influence on this poll, but taking nothing away from Bronson Ride, I feel like he was a good acquisition from Windsor. With that Aiden Castle and Rodwin Denisio trade. But Kyle, all 4 of these guys, I think, you could make an argument for all 4 of them.
I literally would give the award to all 4 of them. I think it's a collective win here because all 4 of them have shown why they were a key acquisition to the Ice Dogs this year. You have Owen Flores, who's basically taken over the number 1 spot for a goalie for the Niagara Ice Dogs, and hearing what we heard. I think it was in the draft lottery today or yesterday, if you're listening to this, whenever the draft lottery was, them mentioning Owen Flores looking to take over the starting role going into the Ice Dogs next season. So he has shown to be an excellent acquisition since acquiring him from the London Knights. Zach Lavoie, can't say enough about him. He's had one exceptional season coming over from Mississauga. He had 28 games with them, only 19 points, 41 games with us, 38 points, total of 57 points this year, 29 goals. He's just looking like he's going to be an absolute star for this team going into next year. And like I said, Alex Assadourian, what the hell of a pickup that we got from him. He only had 8 points in 32 games with Sudbury. In 34 games with us, he had 33 points, 9 goals, and 24 assists. He looks good. Again, another player looks like he's going to be great next year. And then again, ending off with Bronson Ride, exactly what you said, has shown to be a great big body defenseman that the Ice Dogs needed back there. And he's shown a lot of spurts, especially in closer to the end of the season, where I think he's going to be an exceptional piece of that D core and that top 4 core going into next year. A guy that's big back there. I think constructive criticism. I think I need to see a little bit more out of him using his body, though. Bronson, buddy, if you're listening to this, man, use that body of yours. You're a big guy on the ice. Control the game. I think you have the ability to do it, and I think he knows that, and he'll improve on that. But he looks to be improving very well, especially in that second half. Like I said, second half leading towards the end of the season. He's really getting into that comfortability of where what he needs to do on the ice, especially in his own end. So again, all 4 guys definitely deserve best newcomer, but with the fan voting, Bronson right here at 32%.
Yeah, and he's going to take a next step next year because 3 overage defensemen are gone. So,
yeah.
Keane Rebo and David Jesus, all overage defensemen, all gone. So he's going to have to take that next step and hopefully, grow into his body because he's still growing into, that big, huge body of his. We even see at the NHL level when guys get drafted and they go in, it takes them a while to have to grow into that mold. So hopefully we see an improvement from Bronson Ride, and wish him luck at the NHL draft this year as well. We'll see if he's able to get picked. So we'll look forward to that. Next, I'm going to jump over to the rookie poll. We'll go to overagers since I just talked about it. Overage poll. Which Ice Dogs overage player impressed you most this season? Obviously, Gerard Keane, David Jesus, and Nathan Rebo. Again, another close poll, all of them with almost 24% of the vote. Gerard Keane, 23.9%, David Jesus, 30.4%, and Nathan Rebo took it home at 45.7% as he is committing to the University of Queens for their hockey program, as well as his education. So, Kyle, thoughts on the 3 guys and the overage ceremony that we saw this last weekend?
Yeah. He was a tough one because, we saw a little bit of him, obviously, with his injury happening. Couldn't finish off the season the way he wanted to, which is very, very unfortunate for him. Even Rebo, I know he missed only a few games, but ending off a season in injury is not the greatest thing to see, but it is what that is. David Jesus, too. I think he's had a good year, a good OA year with the Ice Dogs. All 3 of them had, I think, an exceptional OA year and helped the Ice Dogs, and helped a lot of the rookies kind of grow into the players they're becoming. But Nathan Rebo, I think, deserves this poll. I will agree with the fans here. I liked Rebo ever since day one. He stepped in, and what he showed on the ice, that defenseman back there that's going to grind in the corners for that puck and get that puck out of those corners and have help that transition to the forwards into the breakout. So I've loved Rebo's game since he first stepped in with the Ice Dogs. And again, I'm going with the fans here. Rebo's definitely deserved overage player most impressed this season.
Yeah, and unfortunately, Keane talked to us, got hurt. Rebo talked to us, got hurt. So I feel like, we were kind of bad luck in that regard interviewing them. But
I hope not.
But yeah,
I wouldn't say that.
Yeah, David Jesus was the only one that got a chance to play, and yeah, he stayed away. So maybe he knew something was going on. But he was the only one that got to play in his final overage game, and we talked to him as well in the exit interviews. But I think all three of these guys, as Landon Cato said on the show last week, just they made his job 30 times easier with what they brought to him when he wasn't on the trips and just as those other older guys to lean on. So congratulations to Jared Keane, Nathan Rebo, and David Jesus on their Ontario Hockey League careers and whatever's next for them. I know David Jesus tells us what's next for him. We'll see what happens with Keane, and I know Rebo is going to Queen's University, so all three of them are going to have an exciting future. And, once a dog, always an Ice Dog. So again, thank them all for their contributions as one-year Ice Dogs. Next, we're going to go to the rookie poll. And other than Kevin He, because, obviously 21 goals for Kevin He was clearly the best rookie that the Ice Dogs could have asked for, tying Akil Thomas's 16-year-old record for that distinction. So other than Kevin He, which first-year player impressed you the most this season? Because the Ice Dogs did have a fair amount of first-year players in the lineup for most of the season. Andrew Vermeulen, Ryan Van Netten, Gabriel Runco, and William Stewart. And winning this poll, there's actually Ryan Van Netten had a little bit of a run for his money from Gabe Runco there. 48.1% for Ryan Van Netten and 38.5% for Gabe Runco, I think just because of that big-bodied presence that he brought to the Ice Dogs, that scrapper in front of the net, anytime somebody got near the crease and the goaltender. But, yeah, what can you say about Ryan Van Netten, Kyle? Just one of the nicest kids you'll ever meet, but when he gets on the ice, he's definitely a competitor.
Yep. I love Netter. He's a great kid off the ice, obviously being a fellow Leaf fan, too. Got to give him a shout out there, but sure. I actually would have picked Runco in this poll because Runco, he spent a little time with us, obviously more consistently at the end of the year with the injuries that happened, but I absolutely have loved Runco's game ever since starting with the Ice Dogs and getting that consistent pattern of playing. I think he's going to be a crucial part of that decor next year. I think he's going to fit in really well once he improves on a lot of other aspects of his game, because he was fantastic back there, throwing his body and weight around. He's not a big guy. He's no Bronson Ride, but Gabriel Runco played like he was Bronson's size. Like he threw his weight around no matter who was in front of the net, who's in the corner. He was that gritty defenseman that we desperately needed back there, and he fit in quite well. And not only that, I noticed a lot of his game in the neutral to offensive zone. He was slowly improving as the games went on. So it almost looks like the more games he's playing, the more he's going to improve, which, that could be for a lot of players. But I see a lot of extra steps towards his progression when he's playing out there. And I'm loving Runco's game, and I would have actually picked Gabriel Runco here. Again, not taking anything away from Netter. Love Ryan Van Netten. I loved his game too. He's been an exceptional piece of that decor back there as well. But I would give my props to Gabriel Runco in this poll.
Yeah, and both those guys having to step into big roles with all the injuries on the defensive side of things. Like Ryan Van Netten playing basically a full season back there as a first-year player, in a top 4 role at some points because of all the injuries and what have you. And like you mentioned, Runco coming up from the 99ers after his season ended and playing out the rest of the season. And he was even called up at spurts during the season. So I really like what I saw from both those guys on the defensive side of things. I think both of them will be back, maybe in bottom pair roles or what have you, but we'll have to see kind of where those two guys were. But I think that they were both, key pieces down the stretch when they needed them to play games. So really like what you saw from Van Netten and Gabriel Runco. Kyle, quickly, what did you see from Vermeulen and Stewart on forward? I know Darren DeDobbelaer's high on Andrew Vermeulen. We'll talk to him in one of the exit interviews. But, it's not easy for those young players to step in, coming up from Brantford and having to play on the fourth line. But what did you see from Vermeulen and Stewart?
Like, I like both their games. But again, it's tough watching and trying to get a sense of what they can bring to the team when the times they were brought in, they were always playing with different players. So it was really tough for them to gain chemistry with whoever they were playing whenever, it wasn't consistent every night. And for players that are just call-up players, that's kind of the role they had to play in the bottom six for this OHL squad. Because if everyone's healthy and they have everyone in the lineup, they're necessarily not really playing yet, right? They're either healthy scratch or still in the minors. So the games that we did see, Vermeulen looked really good. Stewart, we saw more Vermeulen than we did of Stewart. I think Stewart can have an upside to him, but I would love to see more out of that. Like I need to see him in more games to get like a very, 100% sense of what I can see out of him. So, it's tough to give them, a look here in this poll when, you really didn't get to see a lot of them. And when you did, they're always playing with someone else. And, chemistry is a big thing, especially when you're on this team and on an OHL team. So when you're playing with different people every night, it's really tough to get your game going. So hopefully next year we can see them more in a stable role and with some stable teammates and see what we got out of both of them. But props to them both as well.
And moving on to the last poll, IceDogs most valuable player this season. All four of these guys had great years. So, this poll I think could have gone any shape or form. Kevin He, Zach Lavoie, Declan Waddick, Owen Flores. And I'm actually kind of shocked, but, I probably would have picked him as well. I just didn't think that the poll would have went this way, but it went to Owen Flores, the goaltender. 35.3%. In second place was star rookie Kevin He at 27.5. Zach Lavoie and Declan Waddick, 19.6, 17.6 respectively. So another close poll, but in the end, Owen Flores pulls it out, and I think it's well-deserved, Kyle.
Yeah, this is an award I would have gave like a co-winners to. I would have gave it to both Flores and Kevin He. Both of them showed this year why they were valuable to this team in their own ways, right? Because plus one is it's two different positions, so you can't really compare the two to the same. What they both bring, what they brought to the team. If you're looking at an MVP candidate in their own way, Kevin He tying the 16-year-old rookie record, showing a lot of glimpses of what we have out of this player and how much he was a steal of the draft last year. Owen Flores coming in on some nights where the score could have been a lot worse than it was in stopping almost 60 shots consistently over and over again. Looking strong in those, even though they lost, he looked absolutely strong and kept the team in it. And the score, again, like I said, the scores could have been a lot worse than what they showed. But Flores coming in the way he did in this organization and then transcending himself into that starting role, that obviously is an MVP type kind of way to swing your vote towards him. So I would have given both Kevin He and Flores. Both of them, I think, have shown why they deserve to have and be the most valuable player for the IceDogs this year.
Now, I know some people are going to say, they had 12 wins. How can anybody be the MVP? Well, guess what? These guys were still, reasons why the IceDogs, the success that they did have this year, wherever they had it, was because of these four players mostly, I think. Flores, like you mentioned, on a consistent basis, stopping over 50 shots, just getting pummeled on a nightly basis on a rebuilding team, still trying to figure out how to play that team defense structure. Kevin He, like you mentioned, 21, even strength goals. Just incredible to think about as a 16-year-old. And then Zach Lavoie, 29 goals, and Declan Waddick, 28 goals as the leaders offensively. If you look at all four of those guys, they could all be back next season. So that's something to look forward to for IceDog fans. All four of these players will be back next season, barring any, trades or anything like that. But those are four guys you can build around. Owen Flores, your starting goaltender, Kevin He, Zach Lavoie, Declan Waddick. Those are three key forwards to have on the roster next year. And I think that IceDog fans can look forward to all four of those guys possibly making a huge impact for the IceDogs' hopeful turnaround next season and continuing to build up the standings.
Exactly.
So with that said, we're going to end the show today with our exit interviews. We're going to start things off here, Kyle, with somebody that you had mentioned and raved about on this episode. After acquiring him from the Sudbury Wolves, it'll be Alex Assadourian. Another exit interview with IceDogs acquired forward Alex Assadourian. Alex, second half of the season here with Niagara. Just what were your thoughts on, coming over here, making a big impact, and getting a lot more playing time than you had in Sudbury?
Yeah, I was just looking for a chance to play. Obviously, I got that here in Niagara, and I was just trying to make the most of it. And I know the season didn't end up the way that we wanted it to, but we have a really young team and a lot of potential, and feel like we can only go up from here.
What's the biggest thing you're going to work on in the offseason to really get ready for the fall and to get going here for the start of the next season?
Yeah, I just feel like working on all aspects and really working on my shot, my stick handling, working on everything, and coming back a completely better player in all aspects of my game.
We've seen even flashes last night with that pass you made to Zach Lavoie. You've been gaining chemistry with some of these guys on the ice, and it seems like you're developing into quite the playmaker. Is that something that you feel like is a strength of your game, is the playmaking ability and creating space for your teammates and hitting them with fur open shots?
Yeah, I feel like my game is all around making my teammates better, and if that's making the pass or whether that's shooting, I'm just trying to make the right play and make the play when I see it, and yeah.
And lastly, just the confidence level that you built in the second half of the season, is that something that you're going to try to build off of going into next season with, just knowing that you can be, a point producer in this league and an all-around player, a top six forward, and somebody that the team can rely on in all aspects to either drive play or kill penalties? Just how much has the second half of the season given you, I guess, that confidence that you needed to know that you could, be that type of player?
Yeah, for sure. This really helped out my confidence a lot, actually playing a lot more minutes than I was in Sudbury, and the confidence is just going to go up from here as I'm getting older and having more experience in the league. So I'm just really excited for next year and hoping that we can make some noise.
Alex Assadourian, have a great summer. Thanks for doing this, and we'll talk again in the fall.
Yeah, thanks a lot.
Kyle, I know you talked a lot about Assadourian in this episode and all season long, but quick thoughts there as he wraps up and heads out for the offseason.
I think he can be a serious playmaker. I think him working on that side of his game, he can be that player that's always going to feed the goal scorer no matter what line you're on, no matter who is the goal scorer on this team. He just looks like he's going to be that one player that has that instant chemistry with everyone on this team or whoever the goal scorer may be. So I'm excited about the future with Alex, and it sounds like he knows what he's good at when it comes to his game and what he needs to improve on.
Absolutely. So next up is rookie Andrew Vermeulen and his thoughts on how his second half of the season in the Ontario Hockey League coming up from the Brantford 99ers went. Another exit interview with IceDogs rookie forward Andrew Vermeulen. Andrew, how do you think your experience as an OHLer went, for the second half of the season there? You were called up some games early on. Just, how was that roller coaster for you coming up from the 99ers and being asked to get in the lineup and produce when you were there?
Yeah, it's been good. I mean, since I've been here, it's been easy to come into the lineup. All the guys treat me with respect, It's fun to be here. It's been a dream of mine, and it's obviously harder than where I was earlier in the season to put up points, but it's been great while I've been here.
What do you think was the biggest thing that you had to learn at the OHL level that you really thought that you got a hold of by the end of the season, and that you really thought that you took a step in a positive way with something that maybe you didn't expect when you first got in the league?
Just confidence. I mean, you come in here, you think, well, obviously when you're, last year I was in AAA, you think you're going to do well. You're one of the better kids on your team now. It's just you're starting from the bottom, working your way up. So confidence really helps you, with the speed of the game and to make plays that you couldn't make when you first got here.
How did you feel like you fit in with this group? Coming in as a younger player can be difficult. Were there a couple guys that, took you under their wing and kind of showed you the ropes, and really made you feel welcome when you got here to Niagara? Because, it can be a hard feeling, coming up and coming into a new environment altogether.
Yeah, I mean, the guys have been great. They treat us with respect. All the new, younger guys, like all the OAs were great. Nothing but respect from them. I wish them the best in their career, but yeah, it was great playing here. These guys it was a pleasure to play with them. So,
and the GM Darren DeDobbelaer was very high on you. Knew you well from Brantford. So, what is something that you're really looking to build on in the off season that the coaching staff, wants you to work on to come back even stronger and ready to go for next season? Because even Captain Landon Cato said he sees a lot of potential in you as a big time OHL player. So, what's something you're really going to work on to elevate your game to that next level when you come back in the fall?
Yeah, I think just my speed and my strength needs to get some work done in the summer, so that's what I'm going to be focusing on, and should be a good summer for that. Lots of time to improve. So,
right. Andrew Vermeulen, thanks a lot for doing this. Enjoy the summer, enjoy the working out, enjoy the time off, and come back strong in the fall, and we look forward to seeing you.
Yeah, thank you.
Kyle, definitely Andrew Vermeulen, props on him for wanting to do that exit interview as a rookie player. And I agree with Landon Cato. I think we've seen spurts from Andrew Vermeulen this year that he could be a big-bodied forward in this league going forward next year. And I think, with the way that Darren talked about him this season, he could be that for this team next season in maybe like a middle six type of role.
Yeah, I think, he said it best, is he wants to work on his confidence out there, and that's a big thing, especially like you think about it, like him coming in here as a 16-year-old and a rookie, playing the way he did and playing the amount of minutes he did per night, obviously sensing that, he needs to gain his confidence more into maybe even being that big bodied forward, right? It takes a lot of confidence to kind of slot into that role. And if he knows that's the kind of player he wants to be for this team in the OHL, confidence is going to be a big thing. And if he thinks that he needs to improve on that, good on him, because I think that's a crucial part of the game to improve on. Like, not only like the hockey IQ, your shot, the passes and all that nonsense, it's the confidence. You have to have the confidence to be able to do that, and the confidence in able to want to improve on those aspects of your game. That I think that was a big part of the exit interview, what we heard from Andrew.
Next up is, we talked about him earlier, Declan Waddick. 28 goals this season after a 17-point year for the Niagara IceDogs, and talking about what made him so successful in his second year and what he's going to work on in the off-season. Joined by IceDogs forward Declan Waddick. Declan, just a huge breakout year for you. 17 points last year. Elevated yourself. 28 goals this year. What do you think was the biggest jump and the biggest progress that you made from last year to this year that made you turn into such a successful player in this league?
Obviously my confidence was a lot better this year. I went into games thinking I could score and make certain plays. So I had the opportunity, and I eventually capitalized, so that was good.
28 goals this year, and you were in the top six for most of the year. Do you think that learning experience last year, being, a bottom six guy and somebody that, was scratched at certain times, do you think you learned a lot from that experience, and that's why in the second year you were able to take such a big jump and make such a progression here to be one of the top point producers and the second leading goal scorer on the team this year?
Yeah, obviously not getting much opportunity last year. It gave me a chance to really learn the league and understand the league and know how to play in this league. So I think after a whole year last year, with I didn't produce as well last year, given opportunity, but this year with all this confidence and opportunity, I just felt good.
With all the player movement that happened this year, a lot of your friends and teammates getting moved out, how were you able to, keep a narrow focus, keep yourself on the game, and really be one of the guys that was here from the start to finish and still have such a great year despite everything else that was going on? How did you really just put your head down and go to work?
Yeah, it was unfortunate seeing some of those guys get traded because, they're good friendships and all that kind of stuff. But I know it was my draft year. I know I had to be focused, and I know I had to work hard this year, and I did as much as I could, and now I can only hope and see what happens next for me.
Last question. What are you really going to work on this offseason? Taking that big jump from year 1 to year 2, what's going to be the biggest jump from year 2 to year 3 that you're going to work on in the offseason and that the coaching staff wants from you to come back even stronger in the fall and be, even better than you were this year?
Yeah, obviously I think my strength, I want to get stronger, I want to get bigger, I want to be heavier out there. I think that's only going to make my game better and hopefully even have a better season next year.
Declan Waddick. Kyle, Declan Waddick, good thoughts. You could just tell he was way more confident on and off the ice this year as a guy that was going into games knowing that he could score goals and produce at a consistent level, and we saw that going from, I think it was 8 goals last year, 28 this year, so just an incredible, as we had in the poll earlier and the fans agreed, most improved player was Declan Waddick this year.
Yeah, he took a considerable leap than he did last year. Obviously, him mentioning that the times that he wasn't able to play last year, he really took his time to understand the game and what it takes to compete in this game, because the OHL is a whole nother level than where he came from in junior. So I'm glad he took that into account to improve his game from last year to this year, and it took a considerable leap in progression over the offseason. He definitely showed it this year, and if he what he said at the end there, wants to improve on size and using that size to his ability for this game. He could take another considerable leap next year and prove to have another great, if he has a better year next year, that's only going to improve his draft stock, because next year he'll be going into the last time he can be drafted into the NHL. So sky's the limit for him. He's another player that has that type of that ceiling for his game to get improved on.
And a couple of more interviews here. We've got overager David Jesus on his final OHL game and his experience as an OHL player. Joined by overage defenseman David Jesus. David, season's over. Last OHL game last night. Just, reflecting back on that night, what do you think you'll remember most?
Probably me be on the highlight of the night again for getting robbed twice. But no, it was good to soak it all in. Good group of guys here. It's a painful one, but lots of years to remember. It'll always be with me all these years in the OHL, and couldn't be thankful more for the league and Oshawa and Niagara for all the great support they had for me, and wishing them nothing but the best in the future as well.
Right, and it was kind of weird because the other two overagers on the team were unfortunately injured this year with Rebo and Keene, so they weren't able to enjoy it with you. You were really the only guy out there. Was it kind of weird not having the other overagers out there with you, and it was kind of just your moment last night?
Yeah, Keene was injured about, I'd say, almost just after the deadline there, and Ribs was just injured in one of the last games there, so sucks for those guys, but I know they're good guys and they'll recover really strong. But no, we had a lot of fun, us three this year, just kind of sticking together, and knew it wasn't the way we wanted to end our last year, but we tried to make the most of it and soak it all in, and wishing them nothing but a speedy recovery on both their hands. But yeah, it was really fun, and can't thank them enough for all they did for me, and we'll definitely be staying in touch.
And can you talk about, the season wasn't the way you guys wanted it to end, but is there something that, you told some of the guys that, are going to be here next year that, something positive to take in the learning curve that came with this season, and hopefully something that they'll take with them and remember it as they move forward and try to build the winning culture here in Niagara, and you as an overage player, just, what was your final message for the guys, that are going to be here next year and moving on with their OHL careers?
Just soaking it all in, and everyone says soak it all in, and it goes by so fast, and until you're in your last couple games in your last year, you don't realize how fast it really goes. Because man, I remember being a rookie, packing the bus, all that stuff, all those fun things, teaches you a lot of things, and you come a long way from that. And I think you learn and mature at different things growing up in this league. You learn how to talk to the TV, like on podcasts, learn how to go in community events and talk to other people. I think it teaches you a lot of things, but my message was just soak it all in and enjoy every single moment you can, and just work really hard because, you got to be that exceptional 1% in order to make it. Not everyone in this league just makes it and goes on. So you have to be really exceptional and stand out to the scouts' eyes up above. But no, just soaking it all in, have fun, and enjoy every moment because, you think you just keep coming back every single year and you never realize when it's going to be over. And, even for me, it's just like, oh, I'm going to keep coming back. I'm going to keep coming back. But it all ends eventually, and that's how life goes sometimes.
And you talk about yourself moving forward. What are the next steps? Are you going to go the university level? What's your next steps? Are you planning to continue your hockey career and also, take the next step forward academically at university?
Yeah, I'll be heading towards University of Windsor. That's my plan as of now, and I don't know, after I'm done my degree, either hopefully sign an AHL deal or take the path of what my degree is, business. So we'll see what holds for me in the future, but just keep working hard and just keep grinding away, and hopefully something comes right my way.
And last question, it's the biggest one on our podcast last week. Landon Cato said that you were quite the prankster, that you were quite the sneaky prankster out there that people really didn't expect, and you'd undo water bottles and things like that. Is that something that you enjoy doing? Just trying to be a lighthearted guy, quietly and just keeping the guys on their toes all season long.
Yeah. Yeah, me and Kate's got along really well. He was back at the bus with me and some of the older guys, so we'd always have some fun little pranks or do some funny things. And it's more did a little sneaky things here and there, but it acted like it wasn't me, but it was probably me 99% of the time, and just try to keep it loose and have fun in the dressing room, even though it was the way we wanted the season to go. So try to be a happy spirit inside that room and try and keep guys motivated and happy at what they're doing every single day.
Overager David Jesus. David, thanks so much for doing this. Good to meet you and get to know you this year. Best of luck at Windsor and moving forward with your academics and hockey career. And it's been a pleasure having you here in Niagara, and best of luck moving forward.
Thank you. Much appreciated. All the best.
Kyle, good thoughts there from David Jesus, and congratulations to him announcing that he's going to the University of Windsor for business and maybe pursuing his hockey career as well. But really good thoughts there from DJ, and as the season went on, we got to know him a little bit more and get to know his personality. Again, one of those sneaky, funny pranksters on the team. But
never would have thought that.
Yeah, David Jesus, just a good guy, and glad we got to know him a little bit here in Niagara in his overage year.
Yeah, I can't really say much else about that. He's just a really good guy, and looks like he was a really good overager to a lot of the younger kids. Telling him a lot to soak it all in, because the OHL career is very quick. So good luck to him in all his future endeavors, and I really hope he does have a future success in hockey going forward.
Two more. We've got Kevin He and Ryan Kuwabara. Again, extended episode today, guys, but a lot of good content for you guys for the end of season episode. So here next is star rookie Kevin He on what he thought of his rookie season in the Ontario Hockey League. One last exit interview with rookie Kevin He. Kevin, first year in the OHL, reflecting back on it now that it just ended yesterday, but just thoughts on your rookie year, how you thought you progressed throughout the year, and just something that maybe you learned as the year went on about the OHL level.
Yeah, what can I say? It's been quite a ride, and I know the first day when I got to the room, I knew so many guys, and after the trade deadline, I started making new connections, new players here and there. So it's been quite the ride with the group of boys that was in the room, but I love them all and wish them the best of luck for especially the overagers moving on.
And you mentioned, coming into this room as a young player, it's not the easiest thing. Did you feel welcomed by the leadership group that was here? Captain Cato and a couple of the other overagers, Jesus, the Rebos, the Keens when he got here. Like, did those guys make you feel welcomed as a young player stepping into this league? Because as Landon Cato said on our show last week, he doesn't think he would have been able to step in, as a 16-year-old and at that level that you were able to elevate your game to. So just thoughts on coming into this room and having those guys welcome you.
Yeah, 100%. I think I wouldn't have been here, and done what I've done, especially with my rookie season, if it wasn't for the leadership group. Like you said, the older guys, they really took me in. It made me feel like I was a brother, introduced me to all the other guys, and I really got to know everyone, the staff, But I wouldn't have been here, without the leadership that they have kind of taken me under their arm and kind of guide me through this process for sure.
Right. And you talk about you're a guy that is never settled with his game. You always want more. You always want to continue to grow your game and build into more of an impactful player. But 21 goals as a rookie. Just can you talk about accomplishing that, tying Akil Thomas for the 16-year-old rookie record here with Niagara, and just looking back and being proud on what you were able to do as a first-year player in this league.
Yeah, for sure. I've come a long way, especially with me and my family. It hasn't been the easiest, but I'm glad I'm here, and it's been quite the ride, like I've said before. But yeah, it's definitely surreal that I'm here now.
Is there a moment that sticks out to you? Maybe scoring that Teddy Bear toss goal was big, obviously, but is there a couple things that you'll take away positively, from the season? Whether that be the laughs with the teammates, good stuff on the ice, and even the coaching staff. Despite not getting the team success that you guys wanted this year, is there still positive moments that you're going to look back on and say, these are things that I'll carry with me for the rest of my life?
Yeah, I think the last game especially, it was quite an emotional day. Obviously, it was Overagers Appreciation Night. It was their last junior, game, and I think that's the big takeaway for me. It's much bigger than hockey. The guys, everybody bonded with each other. We've gotten really close, and that's something that we'll, keep in touch for, years to come.
And I know the IceDog fans are really excited about what you're going to bring moving forward. You become already a fan favorite here in Niagara. How are you trying to, you hear that stuff, but you try to drown it out and you try to focus on your game. But what's something that you're really going to try to look for and take that next step to elevate to year 2, coming off such a great rookie campaign? What's something that you're really, looking forward to building in the offseason that the coaching staff wants you to do, and that's really going to, catapult you into coming back next fall and being even better?
Yeah, I think definitely my leadership. I think coming back second year, like you said, it is going to be my draft year and kind of filling in that role and as a leader on this team. So that's definitely something I'll be working on towards during the summer.
Kevin Heath, thanks so much for doing this. Congratulations on a great rookie year. So look forward to seeing what you're going to do in year 2. Have a great offseason. Thanks a lot for all of your enthusiasm for all of our content this year, and we look forward to doing more when you come back in the fall.
Thanks so much.
Kyle, good thoughts there from rookie Kevin He. The guy is so enthusiastic about, getting out there, wanting us to cover him more and do more things with him. He's already talking about wanting to do an off-season interview with us, like a Kevin He summer update or something like that. Yeah. But just what a pleasure this young man has, just brought to this team. Again, as Adam Henrich said, and I agree with him, the most mature and respectful 16-year-old player that has ever come across us so far in Niagara, and they've had some great, rookie seasons. But yeah, what Kevin He did as a second-round pick, just an incredible season.
Yeah, and he's proven that he's going to be a very, very big and crucial part of this organization. But I'm glad he's had the year that he's had with this team. Under a lot of the OAs and getting a lot of that veteran leadership that with the OAs, when you ask them about the Rebos, the Keens, the Jesus, and you can even throw in Landon Cato there being the captain and having to be that veteran leader as well in the position that he is. So, good on Kevin. He's got a really good head on his shoulders, and his ceiling, it hasn't been broken yet. He's going to be, this is quote from, oh my God, I forgot his name already.
Adam Henrich, 50 goals, 100 points. It's a big step, but if there's anyone that could do it, it's definitely Kevin. Kevin's got the ability, and I can't wait to see the progression we get in him over the offseason, and we're definitely going to keep in touch and do some things, cool things with Kevin in this offseason. And he wants to take the next step in the leadership role, and I think that's obvious, a no-brainer. Mm-hmm. He's going to be a leader as a second-year player on this team, on and off the ice moving forward. But great stuff from Kevin He, and we look forward to what he's going to bring to the IceDogs. And to you, Niagara, should get excited about what is the future of Kevin He in an IceDogs jersey. So last interview, guys, is with the head coach of the Niagara IceDogs, Ryan Kuwabara, and his final wrap-up with us this season, Kyle. Just before we play it, just thoughts on him coming in and doing what he did, and every single week on this show, giving us a wrap up despite the results maybe not being there, and some rough nights at the rink, but continued to give us what we needed every week.
Yeah, I think, again, like I've said it before in other episodes, even today, I've loved the system that he's implemented, and Coach K was definitely a pleasure to talk to and to get to know this year as well. I'm excited for the future and what he has planned for this team and him going into the first training camp with the Niagara IceDogs next season. So I think he's been a great addition to this organization, and I think we're going to see some great things out of Coach K going forward.
So last exit interview with the head coach of the Niagara IceDogs, Ryan Kuwabara. One final wrap-up with the head coach of the IceDogs, Ryan Kuwabara. Coach, last night, final game. I know you haven't had a lot of time to reflect on it, just finished up with the exit interviews with the players. So just general thoughts on, being back in the Ontario Hockey League after coaching in the pros, and how did you enjoy the experience coming back to the OHL as a head coach this time?
Yeah, definitely. It's somewhere where I always wanted to be a head coach, working through the process of going through minor hockey, junior B, and then, getting the opportunity as an assistant, associate, and then, luckily enough to get some pro experience also. So, happy to be back, definitely, and, looking forward to getting a fresh start with everything that I want to bring. So, no, definitely excited for that.
Yeah, when you come in mid-season, it's hard to really, get everything that you want out of the players. You didn't have the training camp and things like that.
Mm-hmm.
So, what is the message for the guys as they leave here, go home for the summer, and try to come back stronger because they want to obviously have a better season than they did last year? So what was kind of the message that you gave to the guys after the game and even, individually this morning before they left?
Yeah, it was just, get an overview of what, what they thought the season was for them and how it went and, what they can improve on. And then, little critiques of maybe, where I thought they could improve, and the hard work that's going to have to go into the summer to help us to be a better team and give us success moving forward.
For the guys that are going to be here next year, what are you hoping that they took from this season as a big learning experience, on and off the ice, and just becoming OHL pros and learning how to get through the process and get through the grind of a long OHL season, because it can get to you, in the dog days of the winter months, and especially when the season doesn't go as you liked, it can be easy to kind of get down on themselves. So how did you make sure that you and the coaching staff kept those guys upbeat and making sure that that they learn from this season and really take that with them moving forward?
Yeah, like for me, and I think the staff is just keeping them positive during a season like this and keep them learning, keep them engaged. And sometimes that gets tough when you put so much work in and you don't have the success. It's tough to keep harping on it a little bit, but it's important for a lot of these guys to learn what it's going to take for them to play at the next level. So it's something they have to add to their toolbox and to be able to go out and execute and be a pro.
And what are you hoping for as we get into the off season and getting into the training camp next season, and then getting into obviously the regular season for next year? Just what is your plan with that, and making sure that the guys have a good off season, get recharged and get ready to go, and making sure that you guys do improve on the things that you were able to do since you got here mid-season.
Yeah, I think it's just them having a strong season in the gym, getting bigger, getting stronger. A lot of these guys are still developing physically, right? So for them to start building a foundation of that strength and what it takes to play in this league for 68 games and then playoffs, it can be definitely very tough on their bodies, and just managing rest obviously, but recharging mentally. Going through a season like this is always tough mentally, not only with having to absorb so much with the change that happened, and being able to go out and then be positive and play our style.
And the opportunities there for some players next year. You're going to obviously have some draft picks coming into this organization, some top-end draft picks. So, how do you balance that with some of the guys not knowing if they're going to, have a chance on the team next year? It's going to be a competitive training camp next season, and just making sure that they know that spots are open, and that the people that compete hard and show you guys that they can, play the system that you want them to play are going to make the roster next year. Doesn't matter where they were drafted or if they were here last year, newly draft picks. So how do you kind of balance that?
Yeah, definitely. It's tough, but for the guys that are going to come back, it's going to be a battle. We want guys that compete. We want guys that get out there, work hard, and be good teammates. It's something the new guys coming in are going to be definitely pushing. So it's going to be a good camp in regards to that, for them to realize this is what it really is to have a successful camp and have a successful team. So.
And just lastly, a few questions about individual players. Obviously, Kevin He, tying the 16-year-old record for with Akil Thomas for 21 goals in his rookie campaign. I know Kevin's always looking for more, always wanting more. Just what do you tell a guy like that has such a bright future in this league to kind of live in the moment and make sure that he's doing the right things on and off the ice, because he wants to be a pro hockey player one day, and kind of how have you been able to mentor him in that regard as somebody who's also been a pro hockey player yourself?
Yeah, definitely. It's just, like you said, just enjoy the moment, be where your feet are right now, and, look back at your season and say, stuff you did accomplish and take some pride in that. But then again, on the flip side, be hungry. You got to be out there and improving your game, whether it's, shots, details, stopping in the house, hockey IQ, whatever he needs to improve. So it's going to be, an important summer for him, just growth and maybe just, learning the game a bit better, right? Instead of just playing the minor hockey game. Sometimes that's what happens when guys transition. They try to do it all themselves because they've been able to do it all themselves. So, just trying to be, more of a team player there in regards to maybe dishing the puck more and then getting it back, but he's got to go to the area. So it's little tweaks, but, he's a smart kid and he wants to get better. He wants to work hard. So, really excited to see what he's going to bring next year.
And your leading goal scorers, Waddick with 28, Lavoie with 29. Zach came over midseason from Mississauga, really became your trigger man on the power play. And Waddick, a guy that only had less than 10 goals last year, comes through with a breakout campaign with 28 in his second year. So what do you say about those guys and how important they're going to be moving forward for you, productive as offensive players, but also as 200-foot players as well and being responsible?
Yeah, I think that's going to, be one of our things we're going to bring out in training camp is how we're going to play and the style we're going to play. And, they're going to have to buy into that and be a part of that. Offensively, I think they've proved this year that they can do it. Now it's like putting together the 200-foot game and being detailed in the D zone so we don't spend much time in there anymore and go play in the offensive zone, which they're going to excel at.
Ryan Kuwabara, thanks so much for doing this. Enjoy the time off until the draft, and look forward to talking to you when we bring a couple new additions to this IceDogs roster.
No, I appreciate it. Thanks very much for the time.
Kyle, one last wrap-up with Ryan Kuwabara again at the end. Looking forward to the draft. That'll be when we'll be back here, most likely, when draft time hits. Look forward to that. Look forward to the 2 new acquisitions with the top 5 picks. And just, what we've heard from all the exit interviews there over the last half hour or so. Just get you excited for what, is hopeful for this Niagara IceDogs team moving forward for the 23-24 season. It's been a great end-of-season show. And just overall with Ryan Kuwabara, you can tell he's really ready to get this team going already for next season with what he wants to instill in this team and how they want to play and how they want to get better.
Yeah, exactly. There's a lot of confidence there in his players, and him knowing knowing the tools that they're going to need to instill in these players to become better players in this organization. So that's been one of the key things I've loved about Ryan all years, the confidence he has in this club. So I'm excited. I'm excited to see what he has in store once training camp comes next year as well.
Yep. I'll give you final thoughts on today's season wrap-up show.
Oof. Well, bright future ahead. Again, I just mentioned it. Training camp next year is going to be one hell of a time for the Niagara IceDogs, specifically with the group of players that they have now and the core or the draft picks coming in and who's going to compete for a spot in the team. We have potentially 3 or 4, even 5 players competing for a spot next year out of the draft coming onto this organization, depending on what happens this coming draft, because we sure enough will have technically 3 first-round picks if you count the first-round pick in the second round that's coming at like the 29-30 mark, right? So we'll see. We'll see what happens, but I'm excited for the future of this franchise, and I think we have the people in place to make this a playoff competing team once again.
Absolutely. So we look forward to the draft. That'll be when you'll see us next here on the show. We're hoping to do a live stream for the draft itself on on the days that it's happening, and obviously talk to the scouts and things like that if we're able to. But this will be it for our regularly scheduled programming. Thank you to everybody that listened throughout the whole season. Again, there were some episodes that in some weeks that were more difficult than others to listen to, I'm sure. But we thank you, the fans of the Dog Pound podcast and the Niagara IceDogs, for sticking with us this year. and we look forward to what's to come in the future as the official podcast of the Niagara Ice Dogs. So with that said, guys, that's going to wrap it up for our end of season episode right here on the Armchair GM Sports Network. Guys, make sure you're following us on Twitter at Dog Pound Podcast, and thank you for listening to us in audio and watching us in video version on YouTube. Until next time, guys, bark, 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 go Dogs, go, and we'll talk to you guys again very soon. You're listening to the Armchair GM Sports Network.